There's this quiet technological revolution happening right now, and it's totally changing how we see and understand our economy. It's giving us this incredible power to spot huge economic shifts, not months after they've already happened, but as they're happening. So, how is that even possible? Well, let's dive in.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if we could actually watch a crisis unfold in real time instead of just reading about it in some report 3 months down the road? This has always been the fundamental problem for economists and policymakers. Our economic dashboard has, for all intents and purposes, always been a rearview mirror.
And that really gets to the heart of the economy's traditional blind spot. For decades, we've been trying to navigate where we're going, but we've been forced to do it by looking at data from where we've already been. Right, so the big indicators, the ones you always hear about on the news, like GDP, gross domestic product, they're released with a massive delay. Now, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic for looking back and analyzing history, but when you're in the middle of a sudden, sharp crisis, they're practically useless for telling you what is happening right now.
And you don't have to look far for a perfect, kind of scary example. In late March of 2020, as the pandemic was literally shutting down the entire world, the top official models, the ones that try to predict the present, it's a process called nowcasting. They were still predicting positive GDP growth. I mean, look at this. The Atlanta Fed was forecasting over 3% growth. The New York Fed, almost 1.5%. They were completely blind to the economic cliff everyone was about to fall off of.
So, how do we fix this? How do we get rid of that massive blind spot? Well, the answer lies in a totally new way of seeing the economy, and it's all being powered by what's called the alternative data revolution. The big breakthrough here isn't about just building a slightly better version of the old models. Nope. It's about feeding our models a completely new kind of fuel. Instead of sitting around waiting for official government surveys, we can now tap into this massive, nonstop stream of data that reflects what the economy is doing, second by second. And when I say this data is everywhere, I mean it's literally everywhere. We're talking about the text in millions of newspaper articles, the sentiment behind social media posts, real-time credit card transactions, even satellite images that are tracking how busy ports are or how full parking lots are. And of course, what we're all searching for on Google. It's this vast, messy, unstructured, but incredibly rich picture of the economy's real-time pulse. And look, this isn't just some crazy theory. The research shows this stuff has real predictive power. For instance, studies have actually found that by tracking the level of pessimism in financial news, you can get a good idea of when stock prices are about to correct. The collective tone of our conversations actually contains economic signals. Okay, but there's a catch. Having trillions of data points is one thing. Making any sense of them, that's a whole other challenge. You can't just plug this fire hose of information into a simple spreadsheet, right? You need a totally new kind of engine to find the signal in all that noise. And that engine is machine learning. To put it simply, it's basically a way of teaching computers to become expert pattern finders. So instead of giving the computer a bunch of rules to follow, you just give it a massive amount of data and tell it what outcome you're looking for. The machine then learns all the complex hidden relationships on its own. No, within machine learning, there are two key jobs that are really relevant here. The first is called classification. That's where you're just trying to predict a category. Is it A or B? Will the market go up or will it go down? It's a yes or no question. The second is called regression, and that's where you're trying to predict a specific number. By how much exactly will the market go up or down? Both of these are absolutely crucial for economic forecasting. So how does this actually work? Let's go back to all those newspaper articles. There's a technique called sentiment analysis. It allows a machine to read millions of articles, and using something called natural language processing, it actually quantifies the emotional tone. It turns all that messy, unstructured human language into a clean, simple numerical signal of economic optimism or pessimism. It's pretty amazing. All right, so this is where it all comes together. This is the big payoff. We're combining that high-frequency alternative data with the raw power of machine learning to finally see the economy as it is right now. So let's jump back to that critical moment in March 2020. The official models, you'll remember, were still chugging along on old data forecasting positive growth. But the new models, the ones that were reading all those real-time signals from the alternative data, they were flashing bright, bright red. And this chart just says it all. The blue line here is the real-time prediction from this new approach. Just look at how it absolutely plunges in early 2020. On the very same day the official models were still in positive territory, this model predicted a drop that was equivalent to a -6% GDP.
And guess what? That was almost exactly what the official numbers confirmed months later. It saw the recession happening in real time. Now, this is obviously an incredibly powerful tool. But with all that power comes a really big question. How can we trust an answer when we don't really understand how the machine got there? This is famously known as the black box problem. And it's a fair question, right? I mean, if an AI model is going to start influencing major economic policy decisions that affect all of us, we need to have some confidence in its reasoning. We can't just blindly follow whatever the algorithm spits out. And this is where the field is making some huge leaps forward. We're developing these new tools that let us peek inside that black box. For instance, some techniques work kind of like a coach breaking down a team's victory, assigning credit to each player. They can tell us exactly how much of that final prediction was because of credit card data, how much was from Google searches, and how much was from news sentiment. For the first time, we can start to understand the why behind the prediction. So this all leaves us with a pretty fascinating and honestly, a pretty provocative final thought. For the first time in history, we have something like a real-time dashboard for the economy. That blind spot is starting to disappear. So the question is no longer just about prediction. It's about control. If we can really see a crisis coming as it happens, can we finally do something to steer ourselves away from it? That's the huge challenge that lies ahead.